So a topic that comes up all the time, and what, besides doing therapy, what we spend a lot of time on is insurance. And I think the biggest challenge that we run into is families are just not well aware of what their insurance plans cover. And even if they know some basic information, when you're dealing with somebody that has disabilities or chronic illnesses or things like that, you almost have to become a little expert in insurance. So we're going to be doing some different series of things to try to help educate you with about insurance. I knew very little when it was just me, but now that I've raised two boys with special needs and chronic conditions, I've learned way more than I ever wanted to know about insurance. But what I realized is typically when a parent gets a EOB, or an explanation of benefits that comes to say you went to this doctor, this is what we paid, this is what was applied to here and here and here. People don't even know how to read an EOB. And so we can help you with that here. But what's most important is the insurance company can be right and they can be wrong. So if you don't challenge something that doesn't make sense and ask them, typically you can ask them to compare that to your policy, and sometimes the person that processed it incorrectly. So it's important that you learn to understand that part, since you're obviously, if you're listening to this video, going to be receiving a multitude of EOBs like I do, or explanation of benefits. So the other thing I want you all to understand is we do bill in network and out of network insurance at Cutting Edge. We do all electronic and all that billing for you. However, you're going to receive information about our visits quicker than we will. So people think, I think people make a lot of assumptions about insurance. We are typically, depending on the provider and whether it's a primary and a secondary insurance, we can be anywhere from 4 to 12 weeks out on information. You may receive information before us. So it's important to be able to communicate that, because that helps us all to be on the same page. But when you're shopping for insurance or moving to an employer that's offering you a multitude of insurance plans, it's really important that you actually read those plans and understand what's going on in the plan. Not the quick, once over lightly sheet that shows you here's your deductible, here's co-insurance, here's how much you have to pay on your visits. That is the nuts and bolts. But anybody that's having to use insurance every week for different services needs to understand their plan. Many plans have exceptions in them, and you will not see them until you read the plan. Whenever we call to verify, we actually ask them, do you cover these particular codes? And sometimes they're covered and sometimes they're exceptions. A good example is maybe you have physical therapy coverage, but you want to come to Cutting Edge for aquatics. There are plans that allow for physical therapy, but not for aquatics. So it's important that you look for those exceptions in the plan. The other thing that you need to know is your plan self-funded or is it a fully funded plan? So there's two different types of plans. Self-funded is very different than fully funded. The accountability on those plans are very different. A fully funded plan is usually for smaller companies, and they'll call up or they'll find a broker, and the broker will present multiple plan options. Could be Cigna, Aetna, United, Blue Cross, and you actually purchase the plan through that company, Blue Cross, Cigna, Aetna, United. So if you are challenging something or wanting information, you're going to do your appeals directly through that insurance provider. So that's a fully funded plan. A self-funded plan is a plan where your employer is collecting funds for every employee, and it all goes into one big pot. And then the employer, these are usually large companies, and most companies are going self-funded because of the tax advantages they get on that. But what ends up happening is they have this big pot of money, and then they go to Cigna, at United, Blue Cross, any of those, and they say, we would like you to tell us how much we have to pay you for you to manage this fund for us. And they reach an agreement. So really, when a plan like that, if you are wanting exceptions in your plan, your appeal is going to go to your employer in your HR department, not to the insurance company, because the insurance company is going to go back and state the same rules they agreed to follow to manage that plan. So if exceptions are going to be made, you have to go to your employer. So those are two really important things to know. And for the families with kiddos on the autism spectrum, the autism mandate only applies to fully funded plans, not to self-funded plans. So if you have a self-funded plan and you want to get certain services, you're going to need to appeal to your employer for that. The other thing about autism mandates is if that insurance plan is based in Massachusetts, in Illinois, in California, the rules for that state apply. So you may live in Texas, but your corporate base may be in California, so you have a Blue Cross Blue Shield plan of California. Then the rules are going to apply, the mandate rules for autism are going to apply for that state. And Autism Speaks has all that information for you that you can look up by the state. So these are just a few certain points I wanted to hit on. You're welcome to ask questions via the social media if you have specific questions that you want to ask me, but we will do more excerpts on insurance. But these are just a few we wanted to start with.